Welcome to Basketball Cinema, where we revisit the most important and iconic games in NBA history. I'm Jay Canada, and today we're looking at Game 6 of the 2003 NBA Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and New Jersey Nets. Whenever NBA dynasties are discussed, I think most of us have the tendency to mention teams like the Bill Russell Celtics, the Showtime Lakers, the Michael Jordan Bulls, or the Kobe Shaq Lakers. Not everybody, but a lot of folks seem to forget about the Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich Spurs dynasty. Because yes, what they pulled off between 1999 and 2014 is unquestionably in the dynasty spectrum. The Spurs began their dynasty in 1999, winning a chip led by young Tim Duncan and a still effective David Robinson. They won their last chip in 2014, led by an aging Tim Duncan and young budding star Kawhi Leonard. Along the way, 3 more titles were brought home to the Alamo City, thanks to a rotating supply of key role players and a core that was literally unbreakable for the better part of 2 decades. I decided to cover the 2003 finals as our first look at Tim Duncan and the Spurs, because this title not only featured Duncan and Robinson, but also the very green versions of Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, who would eventually become Hall of Fame caliber NBAers in their own right. And while we'll witness and discuss the varied contributors on the Spurs over the course of this video, please don't be fooled. The 2003 San Antonio Spurs were Tim Duncan's team, and the NBA for a moment was his league. After scoring a career-high 25.5 points a game in 2002 and winning league MVP, Timmy D upped his efficiency and defensive output and won a second straight league MVP in 2003. Though his demeanor didn't lend itself to the headlines quite like an Allen Iverson or a Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Duncan's production and respect around the league clearly indicated he was a full-fledged superstar. However, after winning the '99 championship, Duncan failed to lead his team deep into the playoffs the ensuing 3 seasons, including losing in back-to-back years to the eventual champs, the LA Lakers. Losing was probably good for Tim and the Spurs, however, as Popovich saw a change in his star come the 2003 season.
Timmy really became our team leader, somebody who's naturally, intrinsically quiet, but I realized that he was going to have to step up in that regard, and he did that. He realized that he could have an effect on games even more than he was.
Under Duncan's leadership, the Spurs played to a 60-22 record, which was best in the NBA in 2003. They were top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating. This success, though, wasn't entirely expected from the Spurs, even with Duncan playing at an all-world level.
Is Steven Jackson going to be a player? Is Manu going to be a player? Is Tony Parker's sophomore season going to show that he's just average?
It was the first North American pro action for Manu Ginobili in 2003. Tony Parker was unproven, and Steven Jackson was basically an unknown quantity at that point. All 3 of those players would become valuable contributors, however, as the Spurs were able to beat the Suns, then exercise their playoff demons by beating the Lakers in round 2, before ousting their in-state rival Dallas Mavericks in the conference finals. Something wildly unique about the 2003 Spurs was the sheer volume of veteran leadership on the roster, as outlined here by assistant coach Mike Brown.
You look over your shoulder and you see Steve Smith talking to Steven Jackson. You see Danny Ferry leading us in cheers from the sideline. You see Steve Kerr, he's always had a point or two to get across. And Kevin Willis using his manly father voice.
Their roster reads like an NBA retirement home directory, okay? 40-year-old Kevin Willis, 37-year-old David Robinson, 37-year-old Steve Kerr, 36-year-old Danny Ferry. I guess it really was a country for old men. On the other side of this matchup, the New Jersey Nets, led by Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, and Kerry Kittles. The Nets didn't carry the image of a dominant Eastern Conference champ after going just 49-33 in the regular season, but had cruised through the East playoffs, including beating the Detroit Pistons in the conference finals. In addition, the Nets had finals experience, as they had just been there, losing to the Shaq Kobe Lakers in a sweep in 2002. Kidd was all-NBA and all-defensive in 2003, but there wasn't so much as another all-star nod on the Nets roster. Nonetheless, New Jersey was there to compete, and had battled the series to a 2-2 tie after a 1-point Game 4 victory. The Spurs, however, took Game 5 and a 3-2 series lead back to their home floor with a chance to win it all. Could Kidd and the Nets finally stave off a Western Conference powerhouse? Would Tim Duncan put the cap on a historic individual season? Would David Robinson go out a champion after announcing his intention to retire after the season? Man, I've got a lot of questions. How about we get some answers? The New Jersey Nets were clearly a team that couldn't be taken lightly in the NBA Finals, considering the teams they beat en route to finding themselves there. But in the first 5 games, they simply couldn't shoot to save their life, which prompted a rather strange analogy from ABC analyst Tom Tolbert.
I mean, these numbers right here are right up there with gasoline and Mexican food as all-time vomit inducers. You can't shoot, you can't win. It's that simple.
Okay, I'm not sure what this man just said, but he was right. The Nets would shoot just 37% as a team during the finals. New Jersey got on the board first. After a missed Kenyon Martin hook shot, Richard Jefferson was able to tip it home. After a Spurs sloppy turnover, Jason Kidd confidently knocked down a straightaway triple in transition for a quick 5-point lead. Pop wasn't messing around in Game 6, as after another Steven Jackson turnover, young Manu Ginobili got set to check into the game just 2 minutes into the matchup. The first hoop for San Antonio came from the Admiral himself, on a power dunk off some nice Tony Parker penetration. Something we're going to track closely today is Tim Duncan's block shots. Here's the first one on Jason Collins, although it did seem like he and Robinson got a piece of it. Tim followed that up with his first basket with a soft touch from in close. He then ate up Kenyon Martin for his second block of the game already. Tony Parker on the board early with a patented floater. Martin responding for New Jersey for his second make of the game. Good idea staying away from Tim Duncan there, Kenyon. Seriously, don't go inside anymore. Out of the first timeout, the Nets were able to find some success on the interior, with Jason Collins converting a tough floater off a Jason Kidd dime, then a dunk for Collins off of Kerry Kittle's helper. Back to the perimeter, Richard Jefferson a deep jumper for 2, and from just past the free throw line, Jason Kidd with an awkward looking midi in transition gave the Nets a 9-point lead. Tim Duncan helped calm things for San Antonio by nailing a jumper after no board. Gave him 7 points in the first quarter. Timmy defense with his third block of the opening quarter on Aaron Williams' dunk attempt. Basketball Reference tells me Aaron Williams' nickname was A-Train. My guy got derailed on that one. Also allow me to point out here, look at the ugly NBA Finals logo they were using for on-court branding in 2003. That lazy gold block font, such an eyesore. Anyways, Richard Jefferson finished off a strong first quarter with a banked home mid-range J, then a putback dunk with 2 seconds left. RJ had 10 first quarter points. Down 8 entering the second quarter, Tim Duncan playing point guard with a nice feed inside to Steven Jackson. Another dime from Tim as he quickly fed out of a double team to backup point guard Speedy Claxton, who put it in. Nets backup point guard Anthony Johnson with a hoop of his own, but Steven Jackson finally got his jumper on track with a foot barely on the line. Third assist of the second quarter for Tim Duncan, who continued to stuff the stat sheet with a kick and convert to Speedy Claxton once again. Aaron Williams got it back on track for a moment as he blocked David Robinson on one end, then finished over Tim Duncan on the other. Tim D wouldn't be the passenger for long, however, converting a tough and one finish inside after his own miss, and wow, that's at least a 7.5 out of 10 on the Tiger Woods official fist pump scale. Duncan blocked number 4, destroying poor Richard Jefferson. Moments later, David Robinson joined the fun with a beautiful rejection of his own on the struggling Kenyon Martin. Let's take a moment to discuss David Robinson, a player I should probably devote a lot of moments to now that I think of it. As mentioned, the Admiral retired after the 2003 NBA Finals, and it can't be understated just how great a player he was. Robinson is one of only 5 players to win both Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. He's a Hall of Famer. He once scored 71 points in a game. I have so much respect for athletes who are able to table their ego and slide into a different role when their abilities start to fade. This takes a lot of self-awareness that plenty of NBA superstars have failed to achieve. You could tell that this was very important to Tim Duncan too, as he took the reins of the Spurs organization from Robinson.
His personality, his desire, love for the game, he really has made this franchise of a mold of him. And he's been a friend, he's been like a brother, and it's gonna be hard to think about starting a game, going out on the court, getting ready for the ball to go up and not seeing David.
D-Rob was no slouch either, as we're seeing. He averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds a game in his very last playoff series. After the Spurs closed to within 3, Kerry Kittles had an answer.
6 on the shot clock, Kittles will try to quiet him, and he does. That's the way you come back.
First make of the game for Kerry Kittles, who is a proud member of the NBA's all-name team. Did David Robinson really need to retire? Look at this crafty drive and finish by the 37-year-old with his signature left hand. Duncan blocked numero 5 again on Richard Jefferson. Tim, stop picking on RJ, man. He's good people. Tim Duncan was really a man amongst boys in this game. Didn't get the roll on his first attempt, but without much stress, recovered the O board and put it back up and in. Tim with his 5th assist of the quarter into a David Robinson finish. Duncan with a slick move from the post to finally tie the game for the Spurs, and the Nets were really going out sad, y'all.
Kidd for 3. Big shot for Jason Kidd.
Okay, sorry Jason Kidd. Nets gave up their 10-point spread, but still carried a lead into the halftime break. Kerry Kittles had a big third quarter with 11 points, beginning with a transition layup from Jason Kidd. Look at this gorgeous feed from Tim Duncan on the drive. He drops off to Robinson. That's just so good, man. Steven Jackson had turned his game around in this one. Another mid-range conversion, but Kerry Kittles, as mentioned, had a great quarter, getting free and splashing off another Kidd assist. Second-year Tony Parker really struggled in Game 6. He finished with only 4 points and 3 turnovers, including an ugly one right here. Kittles would make a pair of free throws to put the Nets back ahead by 9. New Jersey would extend that lead to 12 after this.
Oh, what hand. What a feed to Jefferson. Oh! And a chance for a three-point play as he lays it in and Ginobili got it.
Great finish from Jefferson, but what a phenomenal feed and transition from Kidd. Side note, Jason Kidd is always one of those players in NBA history that I'm surprised at when I see his basketball reference page. He's a Hall of Famer thanks to 10 All-Star appearances, 6 All-NBA and 9 All-Defensive nods. He also led the league in assists 5 times and was the runner-up for 2002 League MVP, so yeah, not a bad little resume. I think part of the reason I have a hard time thinking of Jason Kidd as one of the greats has to do with the fact he was traded 3 times during his prime. One of those trades actually brought him to New Jersey in 2001, where he obviously had immediate success.
You know, everything was new. Being traded, coming to New Jersey, a new area, a team that was young and not knowing what to expect, and having some success early on, I think helped us all settle in. But we got a great group of guys here. We all cheer for each other. We all want everybody to be successful.
I should also mention, with regards to his resume, Kidd averaged 28 and 9 in the playoffs during the 2 finals runs. That's not bad. More erratic play from Tony Parker. A bad pass turnover, followed by a confident pull-up going left, followed by a traveling turnover. Seriously, Tony was a bit unpolished at this point in his career. While Tony was doing his best Joker homage, injecting a bit of chaos into the game, the Nets' offense faltered too. I've danced around it a bit in the video, but I may as well straight up tell you all. Kenyon Martin had a horrible couple of games in these finals. He would wind up scoring just 3 points on 3 of 23 shooting in this Game 6. That after scoring just 4 points on 2 of 8 shooting in Game 5. Kenyon Martin was never a star player in the NBA, but was a reliable secondary option for the Nets, averaging 17 a game during the 2003 season and 19 a game in the playoffs. In the finals though, he dropped to 15 a game on just 34%. That's the Tim Duncan, David Robinson effect for you. Time for some investigative work here by the Basketball Cinema team. As Kerry Kittles drove into traffic, the ball was knocked aside by who else but Tim Duncan. Now to me, probably you, and to Bill Walton, that was a block shot, right?
That's absolutely a block shot.
Well, no. The NBA scored that as nothing. I suppose the reasoning would be that Kittles was attempting a pass that Duncan deflected, but it clearly looked like a shot attempt to me. Whatever, not like Tim was on pace for any sort of historic stat line or anything. A putback dunk by David Robinson and Tim Duncan, followed by a 19-foot jumper smacked by Tim D, cut the Nets lead back to 8. Let's put our investigation hat back on once again here, as Kenyon Martin went to the rim.
Jefferson, nice feed inside, block shot as Kenyon Martin went to the rack.
Once again, to me, probably you, and as we heard Brad Nessler on the call, that was a block by Tim Duncan. But the official NBA stat sheet marked it down as a block credited to David Robinson. To be fair, without HD quality, it really is tough to see which hand actually got the block, but come on, NBA. Help my boy Tim out, please. Jason Kidd continued to control things for the Nets with a mid-range pull-up. Manu Ginobili answered on the break with 2 of his 11 points on the game. Tim Duncan with his 270th 19-footer of the game, set up by Speedy Claxton once again. Out of a timeout, Kenyon Martin missed a couple more jumpers for the Nets, as Claxton converted for the Spurs. Kerry Kittles was trying to put New Jersey on his back with another make in the third, and the quarter came to a close after both Dikembe Mutombo and Speedy Claxton hit a pair of free throws for their respective teams. Wait a minute. Where did Dikembe Mutombo come from? So here we are in the fourth quarter. Nets with a 6-point lead, Jason Kidd showing why he was considered one of the most elite in the league, tough finish inside. He followed that up with another impossible basket, going glass from the mid-range. Old man Steve Kerr played just 9 minutes in Game 6, but he hit a big-time 20-footer right there. Duncan with a clinical Euro step-like move around Dikembe to give him 20 on the game. Ginobili finally putting his stamp on the game with a strip of Jefferson and finish on the other end. Still though, the Nets wouldn't say die.
And goes right back to Rodgers in the baseline. And Rodgers hits it. A 3 for Rodney Rodgers.
Rodney Rodgers a 3 after a great effort from Jason Kidd to keep possession alive, and the Nets once again led by 9. I glossed over the resume of the New Jersey Nets in the intro portion of this video, but allow me to dive just a bit deeper into that here. Over time, the Nets have been looked down upon as a finals opponent since the Eastern Conference wasn't very good in the early 2000s. But after losing in the finals to the Lakers in 2002, returning to that spot wasn't a given. After beating Milwaukee and Boston, the Nets swept the Detroit Pistons. Yes, the Pistons who won the championship 1 year later, led by a lot of the same core pieces. In addition, the 2003 Nets were statistically the best defensive team in the league, Jason Kidd was top 10 in MVP voting for a second straight year, and Steve Kerr believed they were legitimate.
The Nets were actually the best defensive team that we'd faced all season. They were the toughest team we played in the playoffs, mentally, physically. They really battled. They were an unbelievable opponent.
Also, they took 2 games off the Spurs in the finals at this point, so long story short, they were pretty good. But as we see Malik Rose hit a pair of free throws, this was the beginning of a run for the Spurs. I won't spoil just how big a run it was just yet, but trust me, you should buckle up. Tim Duncan finally credited with a block, his 6th of the game. Duncan, with patience from the post, found a cutting Malik Rose for a freebie, and then
Ginobili, Jackson, a triple, got it!
Great penetration from Manu, and Steven Jackson saving his best for the 4th quarter. The run was at 7-0 when Duncan again rejected poor Kenyon Martin. That gave Tim 31 blocks in the series, which is still an NBA Finals record. And on the other end, assist number 9 for number 21, Steven Jackson for 3 again, finally giving San Antonio the lead. It became a 12-0 run after David Robinson found himself open under the rim. Lucius Harris missed a pair of free throws for New Jersey, and my guy Speedy Claxton sent the Nets to another timeout after a midi. I hate to throw a coach under the bus, especially an NBA legend like Byron Scott, but as this game was slipping from the Nets' grasp within the first 7 minutes of the 4th quarter, he had Richard Jefferson and Kerry Kittles on the bench. They were the Nets' 2nd and 3rd leading scorers in this game, and Kittles specifically played under 5 minutes in the deciding quarter of their season. That's honestly coaching malpractice in my opinion. Even with their best unit back on the floor, New Jersey couldn't stem the tide of the Spurs. Kenyon Martin missing again, then
now it's Duncan, backing in. The kick out, Jackson's hit 2 big threes. He's hit 3!
Yeah, Steven Jackson, his 3rd massive bomb of the 4th quarter, off Tim Duncan's 10th assist to give him a triple-double. Hey, how about another mind-boggling play from Duncan? His 8th block of the game as he deflected a Kerry Kittles 3-point attempt. Man, earlier in the game, ABC aired a Terminator 3 trailer, as well one for the 2003 Hulk movie. I'm honestly just sitting here, trying to figure out which fictional being Tim Duncan most resembles.
I am a machine.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right, Arnold. He's a machine too. Speedy Claxton one more jumper for the Spurs, and Jason Kidd was finally able to stop the run. It topped out at 19-0 for San Antonio. Wow. The Nets still had time to potentially get back in it, but Kidd missed a wide open 3 and Tim Duncan secured his 20th rebound of the game. With under 90 seconds remaining, Richard Jefferson was off from deep, and the Admiral brought in his 17th board of the game. Jason Kidd finally got a desperation shot to go for the Nets, but that would be it for New Jersey. Brian Scalabrine! What's up, GOAT? After converting their free throws, it was smiles all around for David Robinson and the San Antonio Spurs organization. One of the greatest elimination game performances of all time. Tim Duncan posted 21 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks. Should have been 10 blocks and a quadruple double, but you know, the NBA was a bunch of haters. In winning the 2003 NBA championship, the San Antonio Spurs would set off a micro Spurs dynasty inside of the macro Spurs dynasty that was already in place. San Antonio would win 3 titles in the span of 5 years between 2003 and 2007, in addition to the bookending titles of 99 and 2014. Each title has its own merit, and I'm sure a more qualified Spurs fan could tell me which title means the most to the franchise, but in my humble opinion, the 2003 championship flat out rules. You had Tim Duncan playing like the best player in the NBA, you had a glimpse of other core pieces in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili who would be staples of the organization, and you had the staple of the Spurs organization, David Robinson, going out on top. Something truly amazing about the Spurs dynasty is that, as we've covered, David Robinson did retire after the 2003 finals. D-Rob unquestionably one of the greatest NBA players of all time. Though he was tailing off at the end of his career, should have been a super impactful loss for the Spurs. But it wasn't. They would win 3 more titles with Duncan, Parker, and Manu leading the way, all headed up by Greg Popovich. Then Spurs assistant coach PJ Carlissimo attributed Pop's treatment of superstars like Duncan and Robinson to why the Spurs were a successful franchise.
He treats his superstar, Tim Duncan and David Robinson are going to be, in my opinion, 2 of the best players to ever play this game. Pop treats them exactly the same as he treats Steven Jackson or Tony Parker. When they make a mistake, he tells them directly.
And while Pop obviously deserves a lot of credit, having low-maintenance superstars like Duncan and D-Rob who could take the hard coaching, that's a huge blessing for an organization. I should also mention the 2003 Spurs championship meant a ton of old dudes got carried along and finally got a ring put on their resume. I'm looking at you, Danny Ferry, Steve Smith, and Kevin Willis. On the flip side, the New Jersey Nets lost in the finals for the second year in a row, low-key the Buffalo Bills of the NBA for a minute. And things got worse after that. Jason Kidd re-signed in New Jersey following the 2003 season and would continue playing at an elite level for years to come. But after making the playoffs for the following 4 consecutive seasons, the Nets slid into a pretty dark stretch beginning in 2007. Both Kidd and Richard Jefferson would eventually become NBA champs with different organizations, but Kenyon Martin never eclipsed the peak he set in his career in 2003. Also, Kerry Kittles never reached the finals again. He also retired at the age of 30, which is too bad. Kerry Kittles is legitimately one of my favorite NBA names ever. One final bit of legacy discussion to have. As I mentioned, Jason Kidd re-signed with New Jersey in the summer of 2003. He was a free agent, and a team that reportedly courted and made a serious offer to sign him was the San Antonio Spurs. According to Greg Popovich, the Spurs pursued Kidd hard and had plans to play him alongside Tony Parker in the backcourt for years to come. Kidd has admitted major regret to not inking a deal with San Antonio, saying he got cold feet about leaving New Jersey at the last second. Man, prime Jason Kidd added to the Spurs core without having to eliminate any major pieces? Yes, please. For each game covered here on Basketball Cinema, I'll be giving out 3 awards, beginning with the Clint Hawkeye Barton Award for Most Underrated Performer.
I don't care.
Which goes to Speedy Claxton. As much as this game and championship run was the launching point for the Duncan, Parker, Ginobili trio in San Antonio, Tony Parker really struggled in Game 6 with just 4 points, and Manu wasn't much better as he shot 2 for 8 from the field. But off the bench, Speedy Claxton played 24 minutes and went 5 for 8 from the field en route to 13 points. He also did a great job defending Jason Kidd during that big 19-0 Spurs run. The Rick Dalton Award for Most Recognizable Moment goes to this quick comment from Mike Tirico during ABC's post-game coverage.
In 10 days, we all reconvene in New York for the NBA draft. The first 3 picks will likely be under age 21 with a total of 1 year in college experience. Yet, it's a group expected to usher the league into a new generation.
This moment gets the award because it literally made me at my computer screen. As the NBA was transitioning out of an era dominated by guys like David Robinson, John Stockton, Scottie Pippen, as Tim Duncan was being heralded as the newest superstar in the league, just around the corner, one of the greatest draft classes ever was about to enter the NBA. Led, of course, by LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and that can't be right, Darko Milicic? And finally, the Mark Jackson,
with all due respect,
award for weirdest moment in this game goes to Tom Tolbert, who dropped this line during the Spurs' big run.
As I like to say right now, San Antonio is in full arousal mode.
And they have aroused the crowd with a 12-0 run.
Maybe we don't use the term arousal when a team is playing well. That just seems weird to me. And that's it. The San Antonio Spurs beat the New Jersey Nets 88-77 in Game 6 of the NBA Finals on June 15, 2003. The second championship of the Tim Duncan-led Spurs era, and certainly not the last one. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, please consider dropping a like down below, and if you can see yourself watching a few more of these in the future, I'd suggest hitting that subscribe button as well. Also, leave me a comment down below on literally anything from this video. Please! Next week we'll be taking a look at a more recent memory, one of the most clutch performances and shots we've ever seen. But until then, I'm Jay Canada, and this has been Basketball Cinema. But had cruised through the In addition, the Nets had finals experience, as after converting their free throws, it was all smiles In addition, the next... Oh my word. Something we're gonna close... Duncan blocked numerous... Oh my word. Earlier during the game, ABC aired a... Wow.